Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride. Looking to scale or launch your supplement or skincare brand? Eagle Labs Incorporated, based in Florida, offers full-service NSF-certified contract manufacturing of capsules, tablets, powders, liquids, gummies, and lotions. All of their manufacturing takes place in the USA. From R&D and formulation to packaging and fulfillment, Eagle Labs provides scalable, high-quality production that meets FDA and NSF standards. To learn more, contact Michael Law, Chief Commercial Officer at Eagle Labs at michael.law@eaglelabsinc.com, EAGLELABSINC, Michael Law, eaglelabs.com, or text him at 203-242-6417.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail. Good to see you, Bruce.
Hello, Tracy. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited about today's episode. Tell us who our guest is today.
Well, our guest today, Tracy, is in fact you. We are going to talk about what you observed at the most recent Fancy Food Show, one of the key shows for emerging brands to be aware of and consider participating in. But before we launch into the recap of the meeting, why don't you tell the folks about our newest sponsor?
Absolutely. So juggling retail interests from both Whole Foods and Sprouts, Target and Walmart, you need a capital partner that actually gets retail. Meet Lunar Capital, the leading inventory financing partner for brands landing major retail commitments. No dilutive capital, supported by former buyers and operators. With Lunar, you can say yes to big orders without giving up equity or breaking your supply chain. Visit Lunar Capital to apply or talk to the team. That's LUNRcapital.com.
Fantastic. And I've seen them speak a few times and I'm a little bit familiar with their service. So definitely worth keeping in consideration if you're a brand that needs to fill big orders. So Tracy, as we jump in here, why don't you tell the group who may not know, what is the Fancy Food Show? When and where did it take place? And then we'll get a little more granular.
Absolutely. So yeah, just getting back from beautiful New York from the Fancy Food Show, which is at the Javits Center. It's usually the last weekend in June into July. And this year was a great show, and I'm looking forward to sharing with the audience today our insights and what I was able to see. But I have to say right off the bat, Bruce, this show was really well intended. And I will say this, that I think this is going to become, it's really the only big trade show in the Northeast now for CPG brands and industry people because there is no more Expo East. So I think this is going to become the big show on the East Coast for the year.
Interesting, interesting. I've sponsored booths there and attended once, so that's interesting. So you told us when and where. Now tell us a little bit more about what the show is. Is it for people that sell tires for F1 race cars? Not really when it's called fancy food, but is it food? Is it beverage? Is it like health
Yeah.
and beauty? Give
It
us a
is
little
not,
more.
it is not health and beauty, so it is really across food and beverage, snacks, everything you can think of. A lot of international brands come. There's a whole floor. So again, the Javits Center is a big place. So this is a huge show. Of course, not as big as Expo West, but a pretty big show. So it's what, one, two, three floors of booths. So primarily made up of, small emerging brands, bigger brands, and then international brands. So like I said, there's a whole floor for just international brands trying to come uh, to the US.
Interesting. So tell us a little more about who attends. Is this just the brands and maybe their holding companies, or they're also distributors, sales agents, funding companies? Who's in the audience wandering around?
Absolutely. So yes, it's buyers, from major retailers. Some of them have some meetings there as well. I know Sprouts was there. I know Whole Foods was there. So it's buyers, it's obviously distributors as well. And then really CPG service providers. So anybody that's, you know, uh, uh, working with logistics or working with ingredients, things like that. So any kind of provider that services the CPG industry is there as well.
Interesting. So it's kind of the whole little universe. So if the brands are the sun, it's everyone who supports them kind of
It-
in that orbit.
exactly. Yes, exactly. And I wanted to point out another thing that I think SFA does a great job is they're very focused on education. So they have a couple of stages, main stage. Michael Simon was one of the big headline presenters this year talking about sustainability in food. And then they have smaller stages where they have panels where they'll talk. One that I attended with both Sprouts and Pod Foods, very interesting collaboration there. And that was on the what they called the big idea stage. So they have a couple of stages around, uh, the Javits Center, and then they have the big main stage as well.
Interesting. So, one other thing for folks that might not be as attuned to this as you are, given all the times you've attended, I see the acronym SFA on the masthead and on some of the other, materials for the meeting. What is SFA in terms of what does that stand for? And then what does that organization do?
Yep. So SFA stands for Specialty Food Association, and they are the entity that actually puts on Fancy Food Show, and then they have one in the East, which is in June, July, which is what we're talking about, and then they also have one on the West Coast. Uh, the past years, it's been in Vegas in January, and then we'll talk about that. But next year, it's moving to San Diego, and then after that, it's going to be back in San Francisco, where it was for many, many, many years. The West Coast show was always in January in San Francisco. So
Inter-
SFA really is an organization made up of brands and service providers as well, just to support you know, the food that's either international food brands, beverage brands that are both international and domestic.
okay, great, because that clears it up because I see SFA everywhere and I was pretty sure what it stood for. So thanks. Always
Sure.
good to make sure people are grounded. So I know that in doing some research, I saw some materials around their makers prep course.
Hmm.
What is that?
Yep. So this is a great program. I was really impressed with this program. So it's an educational program put on by SFA, and it runs every 6 months. It's for small emerging brands. It's an educational program, and it starts with the fancy food show, which just happened, and then culminates with the fancy food show then in San Diego in January. And so what it really is it's an in-person and online training course. They also include coaching, peer-to-peer collaboration. And again, like I said, it's a 6-month program to help small emerging brands learn all about what it means to be a CPG brand, from sales to marketing, distributor management, you name it, they have a module for it.
And is this part of being a member of SFA, or
Yes.
are each of these courses, the proverbial menu, and you pick the ones you want and you pay
You
accordingly?
have to sign up and commit because, like I said, it's a big commitment, six
Right.
months. And so yes, but you have to first be an SFA member.
Okay, good. Well, it's good because sometimes you join up for things and you're not quite sure what your membership gets you. So this is very tactile and things that make
Yeah.
sense.
And
So
the
you
coolest
touched
thing,
you.
what,
I'm
wait,
sorry,
I have
Trace.
one more thing. The coolest thing I think is up on the third floor of the show, there was a whole, I would call it a hall of all of the brands that participated in the Maker's Prep course. So at the end of the course, you actually get a booth that you can actually sell your products and your brand or make your brand aware to buyers and distributors of all kinds. So I was really impressed. I've got to say, Bruce, there was probably 50 to 75 brands there that had completed the course and then had a brand in this hall up on the third floor of the Javits Center.
Dang. So without naming names, as you walk through there, did your spider sense tell you that, hey man, there's a couple here that are onto
Absolutely.
something? All right, we're going to talk about who your favorites were and name a few names in a bit. So
Yeah.
you touched on this for a second. Tell us about the next event, the show that's moving to California.
Yep. So it's San Diego, it's in San Diego. It's January 11th through the 13th, and it's been going to be called the Winter Fancy Fair. So they've changed the name on the West Coast to Winter Fancy Fair again in San Diego just for this year, and then it's moving back the following years to San Francisco, really where it started.
Okay, great. So folks, the next event, if this is an organization you're interested in learning more about and getting involved with, Winter Fancy Fair, San Diego, January 11th through 13th.
Yeah.
Okay, Tracy. So you and I, when we recap these shows, we try to give people a little flavor of, who should attend and who should exhibit. So if you're a first-time exhibitor, what would your counsel be for what should you do and what should your goals be for the show? As you articulated right up front, some shows are selling shows, some shows are awareness building and networking. So what's this one? What should a first-time exhibitor do and what should their expectations be?
So this is definitely brand awareness and getting your brand out there. Probably, maybe for the first time, this may be your first show to do if you're a small emerging brand, which is our, audience today. So yes, for sure, it's to get your brand out there and give you a little practice, I think, to do other shows. If you're doing this one in New York and you're think maybe I would be a fit for Expo West next March, this is a great way to kind of test and learn about what it means to be in a really big, trade show. Like I said, I thought this show was extremely well attended, so it gives you a good, I guess, trial run as a first time brand.
Okay, great. So before we press on, we want to talk about one of our other sponsors, and it's really germane to this episode. So this is for Fleurette, which helps with deduction management for brands. Tired of getting crushed by chargebacks each time your brand sells product? From dealing with hundreds of forms that all look different to fighting tooth and nail to get repays, managing deductions is tough work. And you're almost certainly leaving money on the table, which drives me crazy. Fortunately, there's a solution. Fleurette was built to help brands like yours. With Fleurette's software platform, you can automate your deductions workflow, get insight into your trade spend, and even have your deductions disputed for you. Whether you're a scrappy young brand trying to break into retail or an established supplier looking to get sharper on trade, Fleurette will put money back in your pocket. We've saved brands hundreds of thousands of dollars this year alone. Visit www.tryfloret.com, Tryfloret, to book a demo and learn more. And late breaking news, Floret is now the official deduction management provider to SFA members. There you go. So if you like money and knowing where it's going and how to keep more of it in your pocket, call the folks at Floret and they can help you out.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay, Tracy. So now let's flip the coin over. If you're a first-time attendee,
Mhm.
what should you do? Should that first-time person be like, I need a booth, I'm going to bring my whole team? Or is this one where you buy a pass and you go and you really check it out so you can figure out how the whole thing rolls?
Yeah, I would definitely no need to bring your whole team, buy a pass. It's pretty affordable and walk the show. But I would tell you this that SFA has a great app, so you can see all of the exhibitors. It lists out all of the educational programs and the presenters. And then it also it has a part of the app where you can plan your show. So you can say, hey, I want to hit a bunch of beverage brands. I want to hit a bunch of snack brands. I had actually one of my colleagues that's starting a spice brand. So they came, just the two of them, and they walked around and they were looking for spice companies, trying to see what they're offering, what the products are, how they're positioning themselves, just trying to learn a little bit about their category. So if you're new to the industry and you want to see what other brands are doing and how they're presenting themselves, this is a great way to do it. It is, like I've mentioned, a huge show. So make sure that you use that app and have a plan, or else you're going to be walking for miles and miles. So really target what brands you really want to see.
Right. And one of the things, folks, Tracy said, which was very interesting and great counsel, is if you're a truly an emerging brand or your brand is still rolling around in your head or on a whiteboard or in a deck where you're putting together your commercialization plan, going to a show like this will help you get a feel for the competition in your category. What are they selling? How do they present themselves, literally from packaging to slogans to which retailers they're in, and very important, pricing. You got to figure out in a category how you're going to be different and where you're going to fit. All right. All right, Tracy. So, what were the biggest trends you saw at this
Right.
year's Fancy Food Show? What years ago it was 800 CBD companies, and that might have been a low number. Before that, it was, 800 gummy companies putting all kinds of things in the gummy form. What's hot right now?
So the funniest thing I think I saw was pickle flavors. There was pickled chips, there was pickled everything. I think I saw four or five different. There was actually even a flavored beverage.
And a
So
pickle flavored pickle,
and a pickle flavored pickle. I did see one pickle brand.
very unique.
So that was protein continues to be hot, just like when we saw that at Expo West. So putting protein into all kinds of things, beverages, meat sticks, chips, you name it, protein still remains to be hot. Because this is, a mostly all food brands, uh, global flavors are big. Asian flavors, saw a lot of that as I walked the show. Saw, I don't know, six or seven, which was kind of interesting, ramen brands. So
Huh.
ramen's making a big comeback. And then again, like Expo West, functional products, uh, brands with creatine, caffeine, prebiotics, a lot of that in beverage, but also coming really over to the food side of the business as well. So a lot of brands are going functional foods really to address GLP-1, which we've talked about on the show before, and other things that really consumers are looking for.
Was it protein in general, or were there specific kinds like pea protein, et cetera? Or
Yeah,
was it just
yeah, plant
protein
plant protein still becomes hot, but still a lot of protein, from animals. So that's not going away. But there are still plant protein. Plant protein a couple years ago was really, really hot. I think it's cooled off a little bit, in my opinion. So, but yeah, but overall protein continues to be a really, really hot trend.
Great. Okay, so one layer deeper there.
Yeah.
What were the hottest brands at the show where like there was a rush at the booth or they were just, on every
Right.
stage presenting? What did you see?
So one of my favorite brands is Rotten, which is a candy brand that actually has put in probiotics into, so they're trying to make it a healthy, they have gummy worms, they have all kinds of different forms of candy, but they've put in, health benefits. Again, a functional food. I never thought functional food would come to candy, but it has. And their packaging is really cool, great for kids. And I just thought that was one of my favorite brands. Couple others that really continue to be big. Dubai chocolate is huge. I've heard a lot of buzz about that. There's a couple of brands there. Lifesider X, another one of my favorite brands. It's a brand that is a healthy energy drink. So it has the healthy part of caffeine into it, and it's also then uh, includes apple cider vinegar. So again, a great beverage brand. Still meat sticks, jerky continues to be hot. Carnal meat stick was there. And then I tried a superfood fruit soda called All Day. And I thought that was really good as well. So lots of innovative brands. Again, overall, I thought it was a great show, well attended, lots of brands, lots of international brands.
It's interesting about meat sticks because back when we were kids, there was like Slim Jim and that was it. And
Yeah,
now there's all these other people doing really great stuff.
right.
So, so what's the cost of attending, of exhibiting? And I know it's probably tiered, but if you're an emerging brand, you're probably not setting up a Nestle style booth on
No.
year one. So
Yeah, it's really an affordable brand. So a 10 by 10 booth is $5,600. So that's very affordable, I think, for a 3-day show as well as it was, attended. So I did want to also add that not only was there an area for the SFA brands and then also startup CPG, but there was also a section on the main floor for the Naturally brands. So they had a section with their brands in there as well.
interesting. So you touched on this before, but just to be clear, those of us like you and me with commercial operations background, we're always thinking of, taking care of customers, serving consumers, and trying to sell things. Is this a selling show?
It is not. It really is brand building. It's getting your brand out there. It's getting people it's a great sampling opportunity as people are walking by and but not really a selling show. So most of the brands, when you go to a booth, obviously they're wanting you to try their product. They have a sample for you. They have a sell sheet, and they're really then going to give you the elevator pitch of here's my brand, here's why it's different, and here try this brand. Can I follow up with you, later and send you samples kind of thing if you're interacting with a buyer.
Okay, perfect. And you just touched on the magic words, which is one of our last topics to cover. Talk to the group about how to follow up, the importance of follow up. Do you follow up 4 minutes after you meet someone? Do you give it a day? I mean, give a few tips on following up
Yes.
because
So
life,
again, as
life is about showing up and following up.
exactly. So follow up, obviously we've talked about this as we do recaps of shows. Follow up is key. If you had a scanner to scan badges, great. If you were able to afford to pay for that, then you've got a list of everybody that came by, or you wrote down their name and contact information, on a spreadsheet. But really follow up, not this show typically runs into the 4th of July holiday. So this show ended on Tuesday. 4th of July is on Friday. Probably not a good idea to try and reach out, while people are just getting back or they're on vacation. So really this week is the best week to start following up with buyers. Great to meet you. Here's my sell sheet. Here's who I am. Can I send you samples? Can we set up a call to talk? That kind of thing. So, but again, to get your money out of the show, which is a commitment both financially and time. The show starts, on a Sunday, so it's 3 day commitment of your time and your financial resources. So you want to make sure you get the most out of it by following up this week.
That's good. And folks, a couple of other things that Tracy just alluded to. At these shows, it's a sampling show, and if you can come up with a one pager, and we cheat one page front and back,
Yeah,
one page, one side might be a sales sheet with all the specs of your product, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other side might be your benefit statement, how you're different, what you're doing to drive awareness, a little bit of your marketing demand plan just to tip. But you got to keep it short because, as Tracy just said, this tends to run into 4th of July weekend. No one's going to take your 80-page deck. It's going to go into the recycling bin, probably inside the Javits Center if you want the truth, or possibly get back to their hotel. So be smart with your money and be sensitive to the fact that some of these people aren't going to be going home and other people are just going to be loaded down, and no one wants to be loaded down. So be clever in what you ask people, whether it's a business card with your website, a QR code, or the one pager Tracy referenced, but get that contact information, whether it's they share it on their phone or if they have an old school business card, but keep that list. The reason you attend is to build that contact list. All right, Tracy.
absolutely. And one of the things I want to also say is stand out in the show. So have a really good, I saw a couple really great Bruce that were very colorful, creative. Then I had some that just were blah. And then also make sure that if you have to get out into the aisle with a tray with your samples, but I saw brands that were out in the aisle, hustling, introducing themselves, getting samples in people's mouth. And then I saw other people who were just sitting on a chair in their booth, just waiting for people to come by. So put yourself out there and be aggressive. Don't be shy.
Yeah, and Tracy just made another good point. Most of the emerging brands don't have a ton of headcount, but if you need to hire a couple of college kids that are going to get out there and really insert themselves into the aisle to be a bit intrusive. If you have those team members that might be valuable team members, but they're kind of introverts, and if you're not sitting there the whole time, they'll be on their phone or not really engaging. You're lighting money on fire. You're lighting it on fire. All right, Tracy, before we let you go, I got to ask you, who's your favorite sports team, band, or brand, and why do you support them?
Absolutely. Well, I am a diehard Florida State Seminole fan. I'm an alumni. I have two children that graduated from there. So yes, I bleed garnet and gold and have ever since I was a kid. So we've had a few tough years, but I continue to support my Florida State Seminoles. So that was an easy one.
Yeah, and for those of you that are concerned about Tracy's mental health, he is in step 4 of the 12-step program, which all of us suffer from as we optimistically look forward to, in this case, college football soon.
And I
All
will
right, well,
say
Tracy,
after you go
uh,
2 and 10, you definitely need a lot of therapy. So I'll
well,
just say that.
I've read once that the first step to getting out of a hole is to stop digging. Second is to juice up the NIL budget. All
Exactly.
right, Tracy. So thank you so much for the recap. The show is an important show. Why don't you go into the big finish and let people know how they can reach out to you and find us in our
Yes,
various
absolutely.
channels?
So you could please continue to follow us on our LinkedIn page. We post every Tuesday. This episode will post soon because it's, time sensitive and relevant. So look for this in the next few days. And then again, follow us on our LinkedIn page, Spotify, Apple, and then also on our website, www.road, the number 2 retail. And you can also reach me personally on LinkedIn, Tracy Priest.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. This has been a great recap of that show. Good luck out there, folks.
Thanks, everybody.